A former police minister based in Paris falls to his death from the 22nd floor of a hotel under mysterious circumstances, just days after his name was mentioned in the Madlanga Commission, a commission in South Africa that is investigating claims made by General Nkosinathi that police corruption stems to the very top echelons of government. Now, was it suicide or was it something far darker? Meet Emmanuel Nkosinathi Mthethwa, only 58 years old. He was once Minister of Police in South Africa, as well as a UNESCO delegate in Paris, as well as an ambassador. He was South Africa's ambassador to France. Now, on the 30th of September 2025, he was found dead after a fall from the 22nd floor of the Hyatt Hotel in Paris. Investigators say that the hotel's secure windows had been forced open with a pair of scissors, and that it was something that was apparently incredibly hard to do. We know that these windows have safety mechanisms in place to prevent just this. Investigators also say that there were no substances, no medication, and no signs of a struggle were reported. We also know that Mthethwa left a note to his wife apologizing and expressing his intention to end his life. But this case doesn't just end there. Just 10 days earlier, it is alleged that Mthethwa requested the high floor room at the hotel. So was this plan of unaliving going around in his mind for 10 days?
The inner courtyard at the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Paris. These are the first images gathered of the location where just 6 days ago, Ambassador Nathi Mthethwa's life would come to an end. The courtyard is still sealed by police. Even the hotel's staff are not permitted to go there. The hotel will, of course, serve as a central focus for the South African police investigation team. They will want to visit its 22nd floor and the room the ambassador booked and in which he spent his final hours. It will look exactly like this one. The ambassador's wife told Newsroom Africa that French police say the bed in the room was entirely untouched. Did not even look as though it had been sat on, she says. And it is agreed that the ambassador forced the narrow sliver of his window so that it opened fully rather than being restricted by a window lock. He possibly used a pair of scissors found at the scene by French police. Those police have reviewed the hotel's CCTV footage and found no evidence that anyone followed the ambassador into the hotel, up to his room, nor was there anyone waiting for him upon his arrival. As to when the room was booked, the ambassador's brother-in-law, Dr. Sfiso Buthelezi, told Newsroom Africa last week that the reservation was first made on September the 15th, and that the ambassador planned a two-night stay on September the 27th and 28th. The ambassador's name was only mentioned in testimony at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry on September the 19th. So when he first booked the room, if that September the 15th date is accurate, he would not have known that he was being accused of political interference in police activities when he served as Minister of Police in President Jacob Zuma's government. But we also know from Dr. Buthelezi that the ambassador changed his reservation at this hotel, reducing it from 2 nights to 1 night and pushing it back by 24 hours to September the 29th. What we don't know is when that change occurred and whether it took place before or after the ambassador's name came up at Madlanga.
We came to the conclusion, this is a non-issue, right? If we are called, let the commission be your guest, you can always go there and put your position.
Nathi Mthethwa, according to the ambassador's brother-in-law, was entirely untroubled by the references to him at Madlanga, and when they talked about it, indicated he would be happy to answer questions, but neither a formal nor informal invitation had come. So he had, in his mind, nothing to fear from eventually being required to testify at the commission. He wasn't worried that in any sense, the walls were closing in, as some people have suggested.
He was not worried about it. Ambassador Mthethwa had dealt with even more difficult things.
The family and staff who work here at the South African Embassy in Paris say that in the final weeks of his life there was no indication of any depression or other anguish that was troubling the ambassador. In fact, they say he was relishing his life as South Africa's top diplomat in this all-important G7 nation. On September the 19th, just 10 days before his disappearance, Nathi Mthethwa joined a group of other ambassadors in Monaco, the principality on the French Riviera. There he presented his ambassadorial credentials to Prince Albert, a trip that, according to Mrs. Mthethwa, both of them thoroughly enjoyed. He was also South Africa's official representative at UNESCO and was busy working with the United Nations Education, Science and Cultural Organization on priorities for the upcoming G20 summit to be held next month in Johannesburg. On September the 24th, the ambassador was, according to all witnesses, in a joyful mood as he shared some traditional Zulu dance moves with a group of French children to celebrate South Africa's Heritage Day. Less than a week later, the man seen in this video dancing would plunge to his death out of the Hyatt Regency's window. In the next few days, members of the Mthethwa family travelling to Paris from South Africa will visit the inner courtyard and engage in the traditional act of fetching his spirit, allowing his remains then to return home. If the ambassador's professional life was happy, and there is no sign that it was not, then it is inevitable that French and South African investigators will also look to see whether there was any issue in his personal life that may have contributed to his death. And one unanswered question relates to his cell phones. He had 2 of them, and one of them was reportedly recovered by French police in this park. It's called the Bois de Boulogne, a big wooded area in the centre of Paris. By day, it's lovely, but at night, it is neither a particularly safe nor salubrious place to be. It is still unclear whether those early French media reports about the phone's location are accurate. And the family says at no point did Nathi Mthethwa share any kind of personal crisis or mental anguish with any of them.
When you go through hard times, everybody goes through hard times, but we always find solace in each other, if you get what I mean. So I'm saying I would have expected him to at least say, hey, there's this thing I'm going, because that has happened in other times when we go through some challenges, we always talk about them. So I'm saying it came to me as a complete surprise, and I didn't want to accept it.
On the 19th of September, the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner testified that Mthethwa had allegedly interfered in a case against former Crime Intelligence head Richard Mdluli, and this wasn't the first time, because back in 2011, the then acting police commissioner, General Nkosinathi, he's the one who has made these claims, claimed that Mthethwa pressured Inspector General Faith Radabi to withdraw a case against Richard Mdluli. So basically what happened is that General Nkosinathi, he wanted to pursue this case, he wanted to go further with it, but according to him, the then Minister of Police from higher up exerted pressure down below and said, get rid of this case. And Mdluli himself, who Nkosinathi wanted to go against, was accused of abusing a police slush fund between 2019 and 2012 for private trips and for safe houses. But during the same era, Mthethwa also saw the closure of the Scorpions unit, which was a very controversial decision at the time.
Safety and Security has finally revealed how it plans to do away with the Scorpions. Minister Charles Ndakula tabled a proposal in Parliament today during a debate on the State of the Nation address. He wants the Scorpions dissolved and a new unit formed that will answer to the SAPS.
The ANC resolved in Polokwane to push ahead with the dissolution of the Scorpions. The same investigation unit that put together the case against Jacob Zuma and National Police Commissioner Jackie Selebi. The ANC wants the unit disbanded by June. And wasting little time, Safety and Security Minister Charles Ndakula has outlined the plan for their demise.
The Scorpions, in the circumstances, will be dissolved, and the organized crime unit of the police will be phased out and a new amalgamated unit will be created.
That unit will fall under the command of SAPS. At this stage, it is just a proposal. President Thabo Mbeki's cabinet must still approve it. And then it needs to pass muster in Parliament.
And was minister when police gunned down miners in the Marikana massacre in 2012. And much later he was cleared by an inquiry for his role in that.
Well, thank you, Francis. Fireworks at the Farlam Commission as lawyers for the injured miners probe into former Police Minister Nathi Mthethwa's testimony. Advocate Dalian Mpofu has questioned whether the police's right to carry firearms gives them immunity from shooting armed protesters. A visibly agitated Mthethwa lost his patience with the line of questioning, prompting him to state emphatically that while police had a right to carry firearms, this did not give them license to kill. He again clarified his statements made in 2008 that police should fight fire with fire, stating that at the time the comment had been in direct reference to criminal gangs and cash and transit syndicates, not against striking protesters. He added that police were not expected to use deadly force against public protests. The inquiry continues.
We know that Mthethwa's phone last pinged in a large park and botanical garden in Paris, and that was where he left his phone. And reports have come out that he did not have any security detail. This seems a bit odd for an ambassador. I don't know if this is the normal. According to reports, ambassadors do not have security detail for whatever reason. I'm not too sure. But we also know that South Africa has sent a 5-person elite team to Paris, to France, to coordinate the investigation. It is being led under Major General Makashalala, with 40 years of policing, 35 years of detective work, as well as with him is a Hawks investigation, a crime scene specialist, a forensic science specialist, as well as an Interpol liaison. And they will spend a week in France, and they will return on the 10th of September, analysing the evidence alongside the French investigators.
The SAPS has confirmed a team of investigators has been sent to France to assist authorities with their investigation into the ambassador's death. In the meantime, plans are afoot for the formal repatriation of the ambassador's remains from France to South Africa. SABC News correspondent William Denselo joins us now from Paris. Good evening and thank you for joining us this evening. Have there been any updates from French authorities on the investigations into his death?
Well, a little earlier I spoke to the family spokesperson, Dr. Buthelezi, who said that there had been no updates over the weekend from investigators, but he remains hopeful that there will be the conclusion of this autopsy. He hopes by Monday, so tomorrow, or by Tuesday at the very latest. Now, when it comes to the wider investigation that, of course, has been underway for nearly a week now, well, no immediate updates from French investigators. They released a statement several days ago that laid out, they said that the initial investigation suggests this could have been a deliberate act without third-party intervention. In a statement, prosecutors go on to say that the window on the 22nd floor of the Hyatt Hotel here in Paris appeared to be opened with scissors. They say there was no sign of a struggle, nor were narcotics or medicine found at the scene. The statement goes on to say the purpose of the investigation is to gather any evidence they deem useful to understanding the facts. As you rightly mentioned, a group of 5 South African investigators are joining to assist with the French efforts. According to those South African investigators, they say that they will be working with them to ensure the circumstances are thoroughly and transparently investigated. This is to work in conjunction with French authorities and not be separate. So the idea is for both sides to be working hand in glove.
Good to have you with us this afternoon. Please give us the latest in regards to the French ambassador Nathi Mthethwa's death investigation. How far are some of the investigations looking into the details surrounding, leading to his death, in fact?
Well, we've had preliminary investigations and preliminary findings from the French authorities that were unveiled a couple of days ago now. Now, what they essentially said is that the initial investigation suggests this could have been a deliberate act, as they say. They say this was a deliberate act without third-party intervention. They add that the purpose of the ongoing investigation, though, is to gather any evidence useful to understanding the facts. What more was revealed from French investigators is that a pair of scissors was recovered from this hotel suite on the 22nd floor of the Hyatt Hotel here in the French capital. We understand it was used to potentially prized open these windows that are normally kept shut for security reasons. French investigators also say that there appears to be no signs of a struggle, no signs of narcotics, medicines found at the scene as well. And of course, as we've been reporting, as you've rightly mentioned, we understand that this team of 5 South African investigators will be working in conjunction with French investigators over the coming few days to provide, as they put it, to ensure that the circumstances are thoroughly and transparently investigated. This is, we've heard from the family spokesperson, something that's welcome. It's seen as to be very much working in hand in glove with the French and not seen as a counter or any kind of rival or parallel investigation, very much working in lockstep with the French investigators as they continue to do their work as timely a fashion as they possibly can.
Absolutely understood, William. So is there any update in terms of some of that missing information? We're getting latest reports. We're not sure about, of course, how truthful they are this side, that, of course, Mr. Mthethwa had in fact booked the Hyatt Regency hotels just for 2 days. And we've been wondering this side as to the availability in the public domain of any footage of surveillance of the former ambassador actually stepping inside the Regent Hyatt Hotel. Has this been made public on the French side?
We're still waiting for updates on the French side, hoping for further updates throughout this afternoon here in the French capital. When it comes to the rumours, the speculation as well that has been surrounding this case over the past week or so, of course, flurries of activity, as you might expect, on social media. The family has reacted over the weekend to the huge amounts of conjecture that, of course, has surrounded these tragic circumstances. They say that's something that you can't block out. They say that their focus at the moment is controlling the pace of the repatriation. They say they're hoping that that can be done as quickly and as timely proceeding as possible to provide the late ambassador with a fitting send-off in his home back in South Africa.
And William, what can you tell us about, of course, his autopsy that we understand has since been concluded? The family this side did confirm receipt of the death certificate, but we are still trying to ascertain the actual cause that is stated within the death certificate.
Absolutely. We're hoping to hear more updates a little later this afternoon, so very much stay tuned for further updates from the family. There has been a degree of frustration, I think it can be gleamed over the past 24 hours or so. There were certainly hopes that an autopsy would be revealed by Tuesday at the very latest, but the family certainly expressing hopes over the weekend that it could be unveiled today. So very much still the hopes that this could happen so that things could begin to take flight so we could begin to see a degree of momentum when it comes to these repatriation proceedings, of course, so crucial for the coming days. The hope is that now that we believe that this death certificate has been provided, now the autopsy can indeed follow in a timely manner, and that could mean that the remains can be moved to a private morgue, and then the repatriation process can really begin in earnest.
And just maybe in closing, William, what are you hearing also on this side in terms of the investigation that we might not particularly be privy to here in South Africa?
Well, still very little information we're hearing from French investigators. Not uncommon for police to be working very much outside of the media purview while investigations are going on. Of course, we'll be hoping for further updates when the South African investigators do begin to work in conjunction with them to see what kind of progress can be made in that regard. But at the moment, investigators still very much working somewhat outside of the purview of the public spotlight. They say that their priority, though, is to be transparent, is to provide any information when it comes. But at the moment, what we're hearing from the French side is just that initial investigation, as previously mentioned, and we're very much waiting for any further updates. Important to note as well that just a few minutes ago, visited the embassy here just down the road from where I'm speaking to you on the banks of the River Seine, and really there was a book of memorial, a book of condolences, an opportunity for people to visit the embassy and write a few words about the passing of their late ambassador. Speaking to those in the embassy, they told me that they simply, of course, it has to be business as usual to a certain degree. The embassy can't close for those that need their services, but of course a huge amount of despair from those that knew and worked with the late ambassador.
Now, the question is, was this a tragic self-unaliving, a man under pressure from years of political scandal and looming commission, or was there a darker reason why the former police minister, linked to some of South Africa's most controversial intelligence battles, plunged from the high-rise hotel with windows forced open? We'll be following the investigation into Mthethwa's death and what the French and South African investigators have to say about the final hours of one of the country's most powerful security figures.